Happy New Year and happy 2023, everybody. We are back. It's been a few weeks. Lots going on. Happy New Year to you, Tim.
Indeed. 2023, award season well underway. A couple of our organizations have already done their
neither
thing.
of us were there. We didn't go to either. We didn't go to either the Critics' Choice or to the LA Film Critics
at all. And
Mark went to both.
Mark went to both. Mark is newly married, and he's trying to impress the new wife. So he's dragging around to fancy events and stuff. I like what's funny is all of those places. And there were a few events prior to that, and every single one of them were just COVID hotspots.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, I knew it.
Well, people weren't showing up to the Critics' Choice Awards. Both Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson got COVID. I guess gave it to each other. And who else? Oh, Michelle Pfeiffer came down with it. It's like it's not killing people anymore, but people still don't want to get it. So anyway, Tim, we have also had an truly, it's like we did the last podcast. We were complaining that people weren't dying at a fast enough clip for us, and then suddenly everybody dies.
Oh man!
So here's the list. You tell me where we start, because I mean, this is just there. In fact, one was just as I was coming to the end of the show. We had another one which you may not have heard about yet. So here we go. Pele, Barbara Walters, Adam Rich, Pope Benedict.
Oh.
Owen Roizman, legendary cinematographer.
Yes.
I mean, Exorcist and Tootsie and on and on and on. Anita Pointer.
Yes.
Vivienne Westwood.
Yes.
Tatiana Petitz, otherwise known as just the great supermodel Tatiana from the Freedom video, George Michael. Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
Lisa Marie Presley.
Perfectly ludicrous, yeah.
Gina Lollobrigida.
Gina Lola fucking Brigida, yeah.
And then just within the last few minutes, Edward R. Pressman.
Yeah, Ed Pressman. I was looking here and it popped up there, and 79.
79.
And the thing about, I used to run into him all the time when I was doing junkets.
Yeah.
Over at the Four Seasons, because Ed produced all the movies in Hollywood. So he was at every junket because he was either the producer, executive producer, or something on everything. American Psycho, Das Boot, The Crow, Wall Street, Badlands, you name it. Going back for probably 40 years.
40 years. Easy 40 years. Yeah, since he was in his 30s. He's old school. He's one of those old school producers that just cranked them out, and they were interesting every time. Bad Lieutenant, right? I mean, he always had his fingers in something really interesting and really, really unusual and novel, and always very commercial. And it was so sad to me. The World Cup ended on just kind of a low note for me because France lost, but my boy Mbappe still got a hat trick in the World Cup, only the second time that's ever happened on the men's side, first time since 1966. That's worth something. And then of course for Christmas I got an Mbappe jersey. My daughter got an Mbappe jersey. We now have father-daughter matching Mbappe jerseys to annoy all of the kids at school who wear the Messi jerseys. So there is that. And then Pele died.
Oh man! And the thing about you and I, anyway, I don't know why I keep dragging you up this mountain. I'm old enough to remember when Pele was a very young player and spent some time here in the United States. Playing
at the Cosmos, New York Cosmos,
and I put in this middle 70s or something like that.
Kind of mid to late 70s. Yeah, he more or less retired from. I mean, his whole. It's fascinating. Like Messi is primarily known, even though he's from Argentina, he's known as a European player because he's played in the European leagues his whole time. He plays for Paris Saint-Germain right now. He's with Mbappe. He and Mbappe are on the same team right now in Paris. He played for a long time, at Barcelona. So, I mean, he's known as a European player. Pele never had that chance because he played for Santos in Brazil. And when the European leagues started calling and offering him money, the Brazilian government matched their offer. They took money out of the public purse to pay Pele to keep him in Brazil because he was such a national icon. He was so important for the sport, but also for young black players because it was the road out. He was an inspiration for a whole class of people, for a whole racial class of people in Brazil for whom soccer then became, a driving hope and an aspiration. And he was, he's just one of the great figures, not just in sport, but of all time. I mean, there's that famous Ronald Reagan moment, right? Where he said, "Hi, my name is Ronald Reagan. I'm the president of the United States of America, and I don't need to introduce you because everybody knows who Pele is." Right? There was, which is one of those great self-deprecating moments. But, Pele was he's one of the great iconic figures of the last 100 years. I mean, the only person ever to win 3 World Cups, made a really good movie, in Victory, with Stallone. Yeah.
There's just this weird moment that I associate with Pele is a movie called Vision Quest.
I remember the wrestling movie.
Modine, the wrestling movie, Matt Modine, and young Matthew Modine, and all the Ron Cox, all this, young Linda Fiorentino. And there's a moment in that movie when this guy that Matthew is working with in this kitchen at this hotel where he's making burgers is talking about Pele. And watching Pele run down a field and leap into the air and flip upside down and kick a ball into a soccer net, and how the entire stadium went insane, and how it was insane that any human being could do that. But he not only could do it, he did it all the time. It was just an easy thing to run past all those people, all the way to one of those plays where he would just run the length of the pitch. Just, you're making people fall down and trip over themselves.
Outrun everybody. And what warms the cockles of my heart, and I don't know what cockles are, but whatever they are, I've got them and they get very warm. Someone asked him fairly recently, everybody's always like, "Oh, that guy's the next Pele. That's the next Pele," like the heir apparent. And they ask him, are there any players in whom you see yourself today? And you know what his answer was? Kylian Mbappe. Because he says he's fast like I was. He just outruns everybody. And I just, I love that kid. I just love that kid. So I think Mbappe will eventually surpass Pele. I think he's going to win 3 World Cups at least. I think he's going to win 2 more for France. I'm hoping. So look forward in 4 years. That kid's
at the end of the day, it's all about being healthy. You stay healthy. Pele was healthy for a very, very, very long time. Now, when he went downhill,
Yeah,
but he was very healthy for a very long time.
So Barbara Walters, that was, she was out of the public eye for a while. So I think we all assumed that was probably in the offing, but that was, another icon, shattered all kinds of boundaries. We have a whole generation or two of female journalists who are just busting it up at networks and national and local, who are all inspired by Barbara Walters. Just
doing amazing things for a very, very long time, and not always particularly inviting environment. Barbara Walters in a long line of female journalists go all the way back to Nellie Bly, I guess, or further. And I don't know, dude. I remember. And again, this is one of those things where sometimes I don't mind, having been on the planet a little while. I remember her sitting down with Mike Tyson.
I do too. All those post-Oscar interviews.
All those post-Oscar interviews. The biggies too. Sadat. That was, but so like the Queen, she bridged all of that. But she was completely and totally approachable. I used to talk to Barbara on red carpets all the time.
I feel like all of these deaths this week, the 20th century is finally dying.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That is actually quite profound, my brother.
Yeah.
You should write that one down, because I'm definitely going to be quoting you. Gina Lola frickin' Brigida. She won a little dingbat there, but you know what? The Gina Lola Brigida that we know and love and think about, extraordinary. Exquisite. And I know that she was a sex kitten and beautiful and all of that, but people do sometimes forget that she could really act.
Yeah. No, she was a tremendous actress, older by about 8 years than Sophia Loren. So she was sort of the first great Italian actress, this great screen beauty who captured international attention. And she set the stage for Sophia Loren. She made it possible for Sophia Loren. And, just so stunningly, perfectly beautiful in all those movies. And you can easily forget how good she was at what she did.
Yeah.
That's that one. But, 95, good long life.
Yeah.
Adam Rich, not a good long life.
No, Adam,
54.
That kid.
You know, this is the one that just kills me. I watched because Adam Rich is one of the kids in the closing Child Stars on Your Television song at the end of Dickie Roberts' Child Star. The David Spade movie. They did one of those We Are the World type things at the end, except it's all child stars. And I'm watching that and I'm thinking, holy cow, they're almost all dead. Like truly, it's really depressing to watch it. You go, okay, they're either all dead or they're messed up. Like there are a handful of people still there. Like, Kanicki, what's his name? Jeff Conaway. Jeff Conaway's gone. Rerun is gone. Right. I mean, just one after another, they're just all gone. And then Adam Rich was one of the last, and his line in that song is, 8 rehabs isn't enough, but I've done and seen the most killer stuff. It's like haunting because at 54, you go, oh man, did you really? You probably did. You probably fell off the wagon, and there it is.
Well, he was from that generation, 5 or 10 years before or after that was real, that Hollywood was really tough on. And they include the Coreys, the 2 Coreys.
Yep, exactly.
Got one of them. The other one made it out. They include Dana Plato. It includes Dana Plato.
She's gone.
It got Dana. It almost got Todd Bridges. But Todd made it out.
Got Gary.
Got Gary.
Got
Gary. And there's a whole
Todd Bridges is one of the last ones in that video who's still around. And I feel like I should write him a letter and just say, Todd, take a look at this video. Pay attention. Take care of yourself. Don't go.
Todd did have his corner. His mother, Todd's mother was my wife, Bridget's agent.
Oh, I think I knew that. I think I knew that. Yeah.
Todd, Todd's mother was, and his father, Jim Bridges, were agents back in the day. If you were a black actor between the late 80s and the early and the 90s, one of the Bridges was your agent for at least a little while. Sherman, our guy, Abe Bridges was and so he had that going for him. He had his actual mother, who was not one of those, bad mothers. And she kind of drug his ass out of that before it ate him. Todd used to always be in those ABC athlete.
That's right.
It was the Stars, but they would do athletics like the Olympics. What the hell was that called? You remember that?
Battle of the Network Stars.
Network Stars.
I went to many of them. I got a lot of autographs. I was actually at the one where Rick Schroeder, who I would later become friends with, but where young Rick Schroeder, he must have been 12 at the time or whatever, on the softball dunk. Who do you want to put in the softball dunk? And God bless him, he broke the rules and said, I want both Heather Thomas and Heather Locklear. And he dunked him. And I was standing like 20 feet away, and I thought, Schroeder's my man. So there
the 2 Heathers, one of which made it out, and then one of which didn't. Oh man. Anyway,
so Pope Benedict, not much to say. They're not an actor, but high profile passing.
And then what? 600 years, 1,000 years, something ridiculous.
First one to resign in like 600 years. Owen Roizman, the legendary cinematographer who shot so freaking much. I mean, The Exorcist and Tootsie are the 2 that I keep coming back to. But Pelham 1, 2, 3, taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3. I mean, so many other great movies. Just all New York stuff, right?
Action and horror.
He captured New York, and it's crazy because when we were in New York last summer, I was walking around and getting taking selfies of myself in front of like various spots, like Russian Tea Room. Where's Tootsie? I'm looking at Tootsie. And then going over to the like 3 blocks away is where they shot the exterior Day of the Jackal. I'm like, oh, that's fine. And at a certain point, I realized I'm like, you know what? Owen Roizman shot like every location that I've been to today, except for Ghostbusters. That was the only one on my little, tour of that part of Manhattan. But it's like, you're like, wow, Roizman really was the man who captured New York at that time. It was amazing. Such a great DP. Great guy. Yeah. Anita Pointer, we're down to one Pointer sister now.
One Pointer sister,
and that's sad. We're down to one BG. as well, and that makes me very sad. That makes me feel old.
Yeah. Well, look. What did you call it?
The 20th century is dying before our eyes.
Right there. Yeah. I don't know. And in a weird way, this is all very sad. But in a weird way, I feel so, I guess, call it privileged. And I suppose every generation will feel this way about their generation. Yeah. To have had all of these people that we're talking about, even Lisa Marie Presley, she was younger than me. Adam Richter's younger than me. Yeah. But I watched Eight Is Enough in 1977 when it came on. I watched that kid at the beginning of his career when there was no Adam Rich and now there's an Adam. I remember when Lisa Marie was born. I remember it. I remember it being on the cover of the Enquirer. I remember that photograph of Elvis, and so somehow, if you've literally, these things have literally been a part of your existence, they just sort of matter more than just a pop culture kind of way.
Do you think, and I know it sounds craven and insensitive to even say this, but we have to, this is our job. We do make these speculations. Things happen, and these things do matter. Does Lisa Marie's passing in any way help Elvis's Oscar chances? Because they literally, like yesterday was when the polls closed for Oscar nominations. Now, we know Elvis is going to get a pile of them. It's going to get Best Picture. It's going to get, a whole bunch of nominations. And Austin Butler's going to get a Best Actor nomination. So the question is, does this now help that film's chances going into the awards?
Of actually winning.
Winning Best Picture. I think Best Picture is wide open right now.
I think so too. But my gut still tells me that there are a lot of folks out there that just really, really love Top Gun. Yeah. And I think Top Gun is going to get a nomination.
Yes, it will.
And there's something about the Oscars, the Academy that I feel like knows that we need to go big.
They do. They know that
we need to nominate and have win. Not that they can control who wins, but nominate a really, really big movie that millions and millions and millions and millions of people saw. And are rooting for and really like a lot. And I think that the Oscars ultimately are going to be the evening of Tom Cruise. But Austin,
that would be something.
And then it wouldn't bother me at all. I got other favorites, but I love Top Gun, and I've been doing those little Oscar buzz things for the LA Times, and Austin and Elvis have been, in my mix at the top. Does the passion of Lisa Marie, is it going to get that sympathy vote? I think Austin definitely is going to win Best Actor.
Yeah, I think
so. And then he's going to give a lovely speech that will include something beautiful about Lisa Marie Presley. That's my prediction.
I think you're right. Vivienne Westwood, probably not that familiar to movie people, but huge factor in punk and creating kind of a punk look. Making it mainstream. So that was a legendary designer person. Tatiana Tatiana, who was how most people knew her. I mean, you probably know her mainly from the George Michael Freedom video, where she's there with all the other supermodels and just looking spectacular. Went early to breast cancer, as they often do when you see it. I always get terrified when I see a famous woman, very successful and beautiful, and then they die in their 50s. And I know it's one of those female cancers that just are so devastating, and that's so sad. Jeff Beck, let's just close on Jeff Beck, because a lot of people one of the great guitarists, top 10, possibly top 5 of all time. I was watching some Jeff Beck things online the other day, just kind of in awe of what he was making that guitar do, like Eddie Van Halen, although in not quite as showy a way, but it's like, you're like, how are you even getting that sound out of a guitar? I don't understand. You are more a guitar guy. You know that whole world really well. I mean, talk about Jeff Beck for a second.
Well, Jeff, along with Jimmy and Eddie and are at the top of the folks who B.B. King drove me to want to play the guitar. And what Jeff did that was particularly extraordinary is that he played a pure electric rock and roll, blues, jazz, whatever genre you want to talk about guitar. Jeff plugged a cable into his guitar and his guitar into his amp. And he was done, and he turned it up loud. You never saw Jeff walking around the stage stomping on a bunch of pedals and stuff like they used to do back in the day. You got all that kind of stuff, and today running it through the computer. Somebody like U2's guitar player whose name's
Edge
Edge. He runs his stuff through all kinds of, and it's beautiful, and I love it. It's fabulous. It's great. Jimmy used to have fun with that. The wah-wah. And Clapton sometimes would get a little interesting, and but Jeff, no, he plugged his guitar into his amp and turned it up loud.
That's just, and it's just, it really amazing sounds that just came out of that guitar. I don't know. I mean, we've lost so many great guitarists. It's kind of they're sort of all. I mean, Jimmy Page is still around.
Yeah,
Clapton's still around, but we've lost Page, we've lost Prince, we've lost
Eddie. Obviously, is gone. It's and the thing of it is, and you, I know you would know this, but a lot of people don't. It's not like we're making great guitar players. Guitar is not the thing that it was when you and I were kids.
No.
You want to do everybody wanted to be so, but it's not really anymore. Who's that kid, Smashing Pumpkins? He's a very good guitar player.
Oh yeah.
And the kid, a couple of the kids who play, look at me, the kids. These people are all 50 now for the Foo Fighters. Pat Metheny over at the Foo Fighters, and John Frusciante over at the Foo Fighters, beautiful guitar players, but they're all 50. And you, if you want, so who's the kid? I want to give a shout out to the young man that you've been sending me videos of. How old is Richter, the drummer?
Oh, Richter. Richter is 6 years old. Richter Be Good, Goode. Yeah, if anybody wants to look up his Instagram,
yes, go look it up and look at some kind of way. I feel like we should put a link or something because. That 6-year-old kid plays the drums like my dad.
It is. This is Richter Be Good. He's basically a drum prodigy. He's playing all around town. He plays live. He's 6 years old. He plays with adults, and he's younger. He's a classmate of my daughter's, and he's a neighbor of some friends of ours, and he first fell across my radar at the school talent show, which is if you've ever been to an elementary school talent show. It's an elementary school talent show. Kids come out and they sing a song, and some kid will come out and tell some, really silly jokes, and everybody kind of treats them with a courtesy laugh. And then there's some cartwheels and some hula hooping, and it's an elementary school talent show, and parents are happy. And then the curtains open up, and there's fog, and you're like, okay, what's this gonna? And there's this little, blonde kid sitting behind some drums. And you go, oh, isn't that cute? That 6-year-old is gonna play some drums. And then next thing, it's like you're watching Keith Moon. It's insane. It's just shredding the drums. You go, how is this even possible? And it's like unbelievable. And then at the end, he's got his headband on. The end, he's like. Lifted both of his sticks in the air, comes to the edge of the stage, pulls his headband off, throws it into the crowd of parents, and then jumps off the stage like he's jumping into a mosh pit. Funniest thing ever. This kid is like he's a heavy metal Mozart. That's what I call him. Heavy metal Mozart. Amazing. Richter Be Good. He's great. He's just terrific.
Shout out.
So, all right, well, let's get going on some movies, and I'm gonna just roll through some foreign stuff. It's been a while since we've really covered a good chunk of foreign stuff, so I'm gonna roll through some of this stuff and just make some recommendations that people might want to pick up. Great old Japanese classic here that's probably not on a lot of people's radar from a fascinating new label, Radiance. This is Big Time Gambling Boss. By the Japanese director Kosaku Yamashita or Yamashita, however you want to pronounce it. Yamashita is my preferred spelling. This is just an absolutely terrific late 60s Japanese new wave era Japanese genre film. I think it's absolutely terrific. If you like that whole yakuza moment, that whole samurai moment, big time gambling boss.
It's set in the 30s. It was made in the 60s,
Yes.
but it's set in the 30s. Yeah,
that's right. Made in the 60s, set in the 30s, but it's an absolutely terrific genre film. It's right in that pocket of all of those samurai and those gangster movies that were made during that time. Big time gambling boss from Radiance. Look for more really cool stuff from them. Don Lee, not a bad action guy on his own, kind of a heavy set guy for people who kind of followed his career. This is a Korean film. It's a Korean cop film. He stars in The Roundup, which is out from Cape Light, and this is a good solid kind of knockoff of what they used to do in Hong Kong, what they still do to a limited degree in Hong Kong, but Korea has kind of picked up the baton. So it's a good tough cop story there. Silvio from Music Box Selects. This is by Albert Burney and Kentucker Audley. This was a 2017 hit at the South by Southwest Film Festival. It didn't get a huge theatrical release from Music Box, who usually gets a little bit of a profile. But this is a very, very strange movie, and it's based on a series of avant-garde vines, those little movies, right, by Albert Burney, and it's all about this gorilla in Baltimore who became ridiculously famous. It's a totally bizarre thing. It's got a commentary on it, some deleted scenes, really, really just bizarre and fascinating. And you got to see it. I'm not going to give anything away. It's weird and hilarious and funny and totally eccentric, and it speaks to our whole social media driven moment. It really does. Got a movie here called Missing, which I also missed.
Is that the Shinzo?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I had to see this for the show. It was very, very powerful film.
It is, right? I mean, I missed this one when it was released. I don't even think I heard it on the show. You go ahead and talk about it for a second.
Well, it's this very, very strong film about this young girl and her father, and the father is this guy who's having all kinds of problems, and he goes missing. She goes looking for her father. Meantime, there's a serial killer roaming about, radio reports and everything that's going on there. Her father is involved with that serial killer in this very a particular kind of way, and how these stories all sort of weave themselves together is what's so powerful. That young girl whose name I'm not going to, I'll leave all that up to you. It's just extraordinary in this movie, and so is Jiro Sato, the guy that plays her father. It's really, really interesting, weaving together of a father-daughter story with a serial killer story.
It's pretty intense stuff. It's pretty intense stuff. Also got a really interesting film here. This is from Distrib Films via Icarus Films home video. This is called The Invisible Witness, and it's an Italian film. It's an international co-production, but it's Italian language, and really, 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 I could see somebody remaking this in Hollywood or even turning it into a series. It's fascinating. It's a murder mystery. It's a thriller. It's definitely procedural, but it is so deeply, deeply psychological. And it's about this guy, this really, really wealthy Italian businessman, and he finds himself basically waking up at one point next to the body of the woman he's having an affair with. And there's all kinds of interesting artifacts and evidence, and it's about really trying to reconstruct what happened, get to the bottom of it in this Vertigo Hitchcockian kind of way. But it takes these fascinating twists and turns, and it just goes into really unusual places. And I could see somebody really, really, I mean, look, forget about all this, Glass, whatever, Ryan Johnson stuff on Netflix. Something like Invisible Witness is for real. It's really, really intense. We also have a Jet Li double feature here.
Oh, yeah.
A couple of classic old Jet Li films that Eastern Light has brought here in double feature. Fist of Legend and Tai Chi Master. Fist of Legend, of course, is Jet Li playing the same character that Bruce Lee played earlier in his career, and legendary Chinese hero who holds it down against the Japanese. And then Tai Chi Master with Michelle Yeoh, who's about to get an Oscar nomination, possibly a win. A very loose telling of the story of the guy who created Tai Chi. It was not a fighting art at the time, but nonetheless, they
beautifully young Michelle Yeoh.
Oh my gosh, this movie has such fun stuff in it. It's so fun. Tai Chi Master is a great movie. I remember when it came out. Fist of Legend is great too, but it's more less wire work, more real fighting and whatnot.
Yeah.
A movie called 200 Meters by Amin Naifa. This is from Film Movement. This is a Palestinian film. Takes place in the West Bank. And the title 200 meters refers to the distance between his wife and his children who live in Israel, and he has to use a work permit to get to them, and it's really it's a fascinating film. It's dramatic. It doesn't overly politicize the situation, but it does humanize it, and I think it's really well worth seeing. It's utterly fascinating film. Has a bonus short film on it as well, but it's really solid. 200 meters, well worth watching if you want something that story that you don't often see. The Student and Monsieur Henri, or Mr. Henri, by Ivan Kalberac. That is, oddly enough, it's not a French film. It's no, I'm kidding. Of course, it's a French film. This is also from Distrib and Icarus. This reminds me a little bit of Nelly and Monsieur Arnaud, which I love so dearly. It's kind of in that same thing. Claude Brasseur, who's just still so wonderful, plays this crusty old guy, and he just doesn't like his son's girlfriend, and so he concocts a plan to bring another young woman into the picture to break up his son and his relationship. Anyway, this winds up being funny and poignant and just such a sweet film. The Student and Monsieur Henri, really good, and Claude Brasseur, who's just he's fabulous. And then the young lady Noémie Schmidt is really good. I'm looking forward to her doing some stuff in the future too, because she's just a great young actress. Let me hit a few more here. We've got the Last Bookshop in the World, which I found to be absolutely charming, by Rax. Oh gosh, I mispronounce his name every time. Rinikangas, something. I don't know. Anyway, this is a Finnish-Spanish co-production. Did you see this by chance? This was.
I don't think I saw that one.
Yeah, I forget who was on Film Week this week. Anyway, this is a really cool documentary that's all about the disappearance of bookshops and bookstores, and it's quite poignant, but it's interesting, and it's really very. It's a wonderful tribute to literature and physical books, and why you probably should, focus a little bit on some paper and not something that'll, the battery will run out at some point. Yeah. The Witch, the other one, there are too many movies called The Witch, and I lose track of which ones are connected to which ones, but this is a Korean film. It's a science fiction action multi-genre hybrid. The film that came before this was The Witch Subversion, which I did not see, so I had to kind of reconstruct my understanding of that. This is really well done, and it's not about like supernatural witch stuff. It's about this. It's a little deceptive. It's about the witch program, which is right. It's a whole
secret laboratory type stuff.
Yeah, it's secret lab stuff. And this girl who's part of it and trying to rescue her, and it starts to feel very Stranger Things at a certain point. 11 and all that kind of thing. So some great CGI, great effects, really intense action. As long as you understand it's not like a witch casting spells and brewing a cauldron. The Witch, the other one. Got another. Another one here from from Distrib and Icarus. The wonderful Emmanuel Bercot stars in Peaceful, which was screened at the last Cannes Film Festival out of competition. This is mainly known because this is one of the most Catherine Deneuve doesn't act a lot anymore, and she occasionally comes out, and when she does, she's just as magnetic and amazing as always. And this is effectively the story of a man played by Benoît Magimel and his mother, played by Catherine Deneuve, and their struggles with her augmenting illness. And it's really intense family drama. Emmanuel Berco does a beautiful job staging this and directing this. Terrific film all the way through. Great cast, beautiful script. It's called Peaceful, appropriately enough. Let me just do a few more here.
I see you have A Man Called Ove.
Yeah, I want to get to that. Yeah, let's jump ahead to that, because that's that has an adaptation right now.
That's the only reason why. I mean, I happen to have reviewed that A Man Called Ove in 2015 or thereabouts with Andy, our boy Andy Klein, on the radio, and then. Total happenstance. I'm on the radio a week or two ago with Andy Klein, and we were reviewing Tom Hanks in A Man Called Otto. Yeah. I'm like, man, that was really, really weird. Interesting thing about that movie and the Otto movie, Tom Hanks's movie, I swear to God, if you put them in and you start them at the same time, they are almost scene for scene the exact same movie, which is perfectly great, because the first one, A Man Called Ove, was a perfectly older guy. His wife has died. His job has sort of aged him out, and he's ready to tap out. He lives on this street. He's this grumpy old guy. This couple moves in next door with a couple of kids, and they're quirky, and they sort of get involved in his life. He gets involved in their life, and before you know it, he doesn't want to kill himself anymore. So it's one of those. Yeah, and they're literally exactly the same.
That is, I have not seen Man Called Otto, so I'm glad you have. But a lot of people are not liking A Man Called Otto. So which one? I love A Man Called Ove or Ove, or however you want to call it. I love this. I think it's great. It was Oscar nominated. It's really fun. It's very sweet. It's very Scandinavian. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But what's your take on how the two films compare?
I can't see how you wouldn't like Otto if you didn't like Ove. They're literally the same movie. A couple of changes, something to do with his father and this, that, and the other thing. But other than that, you're walking through the exact same movie. And I'm sorry, I think Tom is really, really good in the Otto movie. I haven't seen him scowl so much. Yeah. Not even in a war movie does he scowl as much as he does in that movie. So interesting. People are not into it. I kind of dug it.
Got a very, very sweet film from 1996, which makes me sad, because this is the Jacques Doyon film Ponette, and I remember I just thought this movie got the cutest girl in the world, Victoire Tivisol. Victoire Tivisol. Sweet little 4-year-old in this movie. It's about a little girl. She loses her mom, and then she gets bounced around the family, and it's such a sweet, touching movie. And what's so compelling about it is that this little girl is such a good actress at 4, so good. She's just so compelling. And I thought this was such a wonderful thing to have. It's finally out on Blu-ray from Kino Lorber, and it has a great, Sam Dayan does another great audio commentary on it, and then I realized, oh my goodness, this girl is now pushing 30. Yeah. I mean, I'm like, holy cow!
She was 4 in 1996, 95, 96. Yeah,
man, it's unbelievable. So yeah, she's over 30. She'd be over 30 now. So I mean, that's just. She probably has a Ponette of her own. Anyway, Ponette, Ponette, such a sweet film, such a beautiful, pure little movie. Luchino Visconti's L'Innocente is also out from Film Movement Classics. Jennifer O'Neill co-stars along with Laura Antonelli and Giancarlo Giannini. Great movie. Just a great movie. Visconti is a filmmaker I think is going to continue to soar in people's esteem over the years. He made such just beautiful, beautiful, floral, opulent movies. They're just beautifully shot, beautifully acted, just meticulously made. And L'Innocente is, an adaptation of a very, very famous Italian novel. Yeah. And it was Visconti's last film. It takes place in the thick of the Italian aristocracy, and it's just a wonderful, one of those wonderful kind of 19th century torrid romance and drama things. It's really good stuff.
Yeah.
I want to talk about a Romanian film here that I had a very close experience to, Miracle by Bogdan George Petri, who teaches in New York, at Columbia, I believe. So this screened in Los Angeles, and I had the great privilege of doing a Q&A on both nights of the opening here in Los Angeles. Did one with Petri. He was here for the Saturday night screening, and then I did both nights with Ioana Bugarin, the star of the film, who is luminous, absolutely luminous. This is the second film in a trilogy, but you don't need to all see them. It's kind of a Kieslowski-like trilogy of the movies that are sort of not a single story. They're connected thematically and by some interlocking characters. And this is a fascinating, powerful film. I'm very hot and cold on a lot of Romanian movies. I think the whole Romanian New Wave thing gets a little bit precious in the hands of some filmmakers.
The death. I don't think
Death of Mr. Lazarescu.
I kind of love that, but yeah.
Well, in this one, this is a story of a woman who runs away from a convent. May or may not be, you don't know at the beginning of it, may or may not be a full nun, might just be, a woman who's starting the path to become a nun, because, there's a process. And something terrible happens to her. And then the story kind of takes a second half where there is an investigator who is responsible for focusing on what happened to her. So I'll leave that with you. It's kind of bifurcated that way, but there's something near the end, and I wish I could talk more about it because it was a huge part of the Q&A, but there's something that happens near the end that is some of the best filmmaking you will have seen in years. It is really extraordinary. And to hear Petri talk about it and how they did it was really fascinating. I mean, done completely without CG, just so that people understand. It's a moment, it's a long shot. I'll tell you that much. It's a long take, but it's all done in camera. And it's one of the most fascinating single take things I've ever seen. And you'll see why, because it's not the camera, moving all over creation. It's very subtle, and you almost wouldn't even notice it. So really, really great movie. Miracle from Film Movement. I think the third film in that trilogy has just been completed. And the first one has not been released here. So anyway, but look for Ioana Bugarin to be a big thing. She speaks perfect English. I just want to point that out. Wonderful actress, perfect English. Also, Sex and Lucia, the unrated director's cut. It was already pretty steamy in the rated cut.
Young Paz Vega.
You and I saw this together. We saw Sex and Lucia at the same screening. I remember that. Yeah, this was absolutely terrific. By Julio Medem. Yeah, this was a great film. One of the great foreign language films of. Jeez, it's been a while, hasn't it? Yeah, the last 20 years. But anyway, this is great. This is from Music Box as well. It's got featurette, interviews, cast and crew, trailers, the usual. But it's a beautiful. Paz Vega's wonderful in it. This was her breakout role, and it's got beautiful Mediterranean locations, and it is deeply erotic, and the unrated cut is even more so.
Yep.
Tim, let's talk about Fear for a second. The Bulgarian film, which was by Eyalo Hristov. Did you see Fear by chance?
Let's see. Which one are we talking about here?
Fear is the Bulgarian film, Oscar submission, for Bulgaria, and it's about this one. It's all black and white, beautiful black and white. But it's about this woman who lives close to the Turkish border in Bulgaria, and she bumps into an African refugee who's trying to, make his way, and he's not in great shape, and so she helps him out, gives him something to eat, and gives him a place to stay, and then they just kind of have this. It's this fascinating fish out of water thing at that point. This guy from Africa and this small Bulgarian village. It's really very interesting. It's like I'm not big on Bulgarian cinema because there's so few Bulgarian films.
Yeah.
But I'm like, all right, it's a little bit like a touch of Romanian and a little Hungarian influence in it, and you can see a little Turkish influence in it. But it is otherwise a really, really interesting film. And I never thought about it, but if you think about it, all the refugees from Africa and from North Africa and even the Middle East, anybody who's arriving on the Mediterranean shores, most of them are going through France or through Italy or through Greece. But if you're going through Europe, Bulgaria is going to get a fair chunk of them too. And we don't think about Bulgaria as a transit place for refugees, but it's a fascinating film. Emergency Declaration is another Korean film. This is like a Korean version of Airport and Die Hard, all wrapped together with like a little bit of COVID kind of thrown in there. Basically, you got a plane. It's really well done, by the way. This thing is insanely
this thing
well
is
done.
like it's fast. It's you think of something like the shootout scene in Heat, Michael Mann's Heat. Yeah. There are 4 of those in this movie.
Yeah,
it opens with one of those. And if you're as old as I am, and you either pay attention to history or spend some time in the military like I do, you know the incidents in this movie. This movie alludes to several incidents that happened between North and South Korea, and that actually happened in the early mid 80s, including the defection of a North Korean fighter pilot to South Korea. It was a big deal.
I remember that.
I was in the Air Force when that happened. We scrambled of fighters off the. So, and there are 2 or 3 of those, and then you have these 2 agents in this sort of who's the sort of deep cover super mole, working for the North Koreans. Is it me? Is it him? It's all that kind of stuff. Again, set against the background of these actual historical moments. And the guy who stars in this, if I'm not mistaken, has something to do with the. He's one of the. What is it? Squid Game. He's one of the Squid Game.
Yeah, pretty much everybody in here, you're going to go, okay, that's the guy from Parasite. Shows up in everything, who's in everything, right? They're from Squid Game. Like, if you've been watching anything Korean for any period of time, you're going to recognize everybody in this movie. It's like if Irwin Allen were Korean, this is what he would have made. And I mean, effectively, it asks the question: what would happen if a psychopath infected himself with a virus for which there is no cure, and then decided to spread it among all the passengers on a plane? What do you do? Do you let the plane land? What happens at that point? And how do you help the people on the plane? I mean, it's a great contrivance, and you're dealing with, like the Korean government, you're dealing with the journalists, you're dealing with all the people. Suddenly this just taps so many different places and so many lives. You're on the plane, you're off the plane, you're in in this press conference, you're back on the plane, somebody else is dying. It's like, it's so intense. It's just so freaking intense. Implausible, sure, but who cares?
Yeah.
And then let's see. I'll just wrap out pull a couple of these here. We're trying to some few things. So the Academy Award winning Ida. Also want to make mention of that as we're coming up on the Academy Awards here. Paweł Lukowski's wonderful Ida, and a Polish film is again in the mix. And Ida it was a wonderful award-winning black and white Polish film. Tremendous, beautifully shot movie. Takes place in 1962. It's about a young woman who's a nun and trying to reconnect with her roots and what happened to her, and the possibility of her Jewish parentage. Anyway, really great film, beautifully made. That's from Music Box. That's on Blu-ray. Definitely want to check that out. And then lastly, the great Italian director Nanni Moretti, who won the Palme d'Or at Cannes for The Sun's Room. A couple of films out from his catalog as well. From Film Movement Classics is Caro Diario, Dear Diary, which was at Cannes one of the years that I was there. Hilarious. It's basically Nanni Moretti starring in his own movie on a travel log, and it keeps going. It's very funny, and it keeps going back to the Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, which is a movie he hates, and he keeps. There are a lot of references to Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer in there because he just can't stand it. It's very, very funny. And then Santiago, Italia, which is a more recent film. This was at the New York Film Festival and the Vancouver Film Festival. And this is Nanni Moretti is very politically active too. Caro Diario, not so much on that end, but he's very much part of the Italian left, and he's he lets that hang out every once in a while, and this is one of those films. This is his look at the what happened in Chile in the 1970s and with Pinochet and all of that horrible stuff, and who was responsible for what. Won't rehash the history, but it's an unusual film from Nanni Moretti, Santiago, Italia, that delves into that episode, which not even Chile has really dealt with very well. But he sees in it a mirror of fascism in Italy. So he sees kind of the reverberations of what he and so many other Italians loathe from their past echoing into another country in the recent past. And so he decides to tackle that. It's really, really a fascinating film. Lots of firsthand testimony and whatnot. So really, really cool. Anyway, so there's that for foreign language today.
Wow.
Drop into some 4K or Criterion.
Either one, and I also popped open some documentaries here. There's some interesting stuff there, but yeah, wherever you want to go.
Let's start with let me get these two arrows out of the picture, and then we can talk about
the Executioner
Criterion
Collection and the Dunwich Horror.
Yeah, so the Dunwich Horror. I had to. It's been a minute since I saw this, so I had to kind of get back into it again because it's one of those movies that I excuse me, I didn't have fond memories of. It's like it's an old it's Daniel Haller who directed it.
1970. This movie goes back.
Yeah, this is 19. Daniel Haller, who directed it, is a Corman acolyte. So he kind of brings the whole Corman school with him to this, and it feels very much like a Corman thing. I had not realized until I rewatched it that Curtis Hanson had written this when he was calling himself Curtis Lee Hanson.
Yeah.
Dropped the lead at a certain point. So Curtis Hanson, one of those guys that came out of the Corman factory and became much more legit. I still don't quite like it, but for different reasons now than I didn't like it then. Do you have any opinion on the Dunwich Horror?
Well, it's funny because you and I are, but 1970, the film, you and I are involved in a documentary that's about a thing called cosmic horror.
Yeah.
Yes. And I won't give anything away, but this is one of those films, a cosmic horror film, the Necronomicon and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's going on. Look, what I like about this film is Sandra Dee and Dean Stockwell and Ed Begley. But it's really sort of a classic film out of that style of horror film that was being made, in the late 60s and early 70s. So,
See, I originally didn't like it because I was too young at the time and it scared the daylights out of me. It doesn't scare me anymore, and I like exploitation film quite a lot. So all of that. But here's what I didn't like. I didn't like seeing Sandy Dee in this. It just kind of ruined Sandy Dee, where I was like, you know what? I didn't, when I saw it before, I didn't really know who Sandy Dee was. And then I fell in love with Sandy Dee and all those Gidget movies. And now I see her in the Dunwich Horror and I'm kind of turned off.
Getting all oozed on. Talia Shire too. I forgot she was in this movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's got a great cast. Anyway, terrific bunch of extras on this thing. There's an audio commentary, from the creators of, Arkham County, Guy Adams and Alexandra Benedict. Conversations, interviews, all kinds of great stuff. There's a really cool interview here with science fiction and fantasy writer Ruthana Emrys, who wrote the Innsmouth Legacy series, who talks very much to the whole cosmic horror thing. There's an analysis of the score by Les Baxter. Really interesting stuff. So all the extras really make this thing worth watching, probably, I would say. And then the Executioner Collection. This is Sonny Chiba. We've got a lot of Sonny Chiba coming out lately. We had the Sonny Chiba collection of films not too long ago. Sonny Chiba starred in these two rather shockingly violent movies at the time. Really pretty intense. And it's all out now in a single set. Does it hold up? I guess if you're a Sonny Chiba fan, which I am, But I mean, it's really you're not watching this for the plot or anything. I mean, it's it's all kind of standard procedural stuff. 70s era narcotics trafficking and mercenaries and all this kind of stuff. But you're watching it to just see Sonny Chiba just bust people up, just crack heads and break bones. That's all you're watching this for. And I'll tell you, I think this is better than the Street Fighter movies by far.
Oh, yeah. Sonny fought with anger, not with style or finesse or any of those things that Bruce Lee. No, Sonny was just mad. This box is just the one with the box that's basically like a fireball.
Yeah, that's it.
And Sonny's face right in the middle of it, and then he's got the nunchucks and his face is right. What is it? And he's just got this look in his eyes, and that's the way Sonny fought everybody, as if he was literally just going to rip them to pieces. And I loved it.
It's funny because, when if I were watching this with a crowd, I'd be cheering left and right. When I watch it alone, I'm much more subdued because I don't want to freak my family out, especially my daughter who's scared by everything. So I'll sit there with, kind of the headphones on and something horrible happens and you go, oh, well, that was brutal. And then, somebody will walk in the room and I quickly push pause. That's how it goes. So let's hit these criterions. Let's start off with Cooley High.
Oh, Cooley High. Interesting, because you and I are also involved with the project that may involve the great Michael Schultz,
indeed,
director of Cooley High, among many other things.
Who is still a force?
Oh man,
Schultz, still a force. Nearly 50 years later.
And, Michael was a producer on Black Lightning and all kinds of stuff, just and very important. So Cooley High, written by the wonderful Eric Monte. It gave us Glenn Turman. It gave us Lawrence Hilton Jacobs. Garrett Morris is walking around Cooley High. A very, 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 very young Robert Townsend is walking around Cooley High. Stephen Williams. It's a story that made in the 70s, but set during that sort of
that
middle 60s moment, Chicago period with all that great music, Marvin Gaye, all that kind of stuff. So the soundtrack is quite a thing from Cooley High. When I saw this movie in 1976 when it came out, something like that, I was 14, 15 years old. And in the Black community, this movie was just the most important thing out there, that soundtrack and the story. And it's the kind of movie that when I saw it as a teenager, my parents saw too, because it was literally their generation that the movie was about.
Which was smart.
Yeah.
You're pulling those generations together in one film.
Mm-hmm.
You and I have talked about this too, because this is often roped in with blaxploitation, which is kind of a catch-all for all films either made by Black filmmakers or featuring Black actors, or both, made between about 1968 and about 1978, 79. If you kind of rope in Penitentiary on the far end, maybe 1980 on the outside. But a lot of those films are not exploitation films. No. And Cooley High is one of them.
Yeah, Cooley High is not exploitation. Shaft is not exploitation.
Shaft is not. The Learning Tree is not. No. So a lot of these films just don't belong under that categorization, even though they're lumped in because they're from the same moment and because a lot of the same people show up in them and work on them. But Cooley High is a legit drama, a legit snapshot of a moment in time, a legit period film, and a really, really fascinating movie from the period that has absolutely survived the test of time. And an unusual film, I think, for Schultz, because he made so few films at that time, but they're all different.
Yeah. And look, I hasten to say this but I will anyway, because I didn't know it for a very long time. I certainly didn't know it when I was 14, 15 going to see this movie. Michael Schultz is Black. All right. His father was German, and his mother is Black. But Michael Schultz is, relatively speaking, like Obama or whatever, but Black. And it's sort of an important thing, because for a very long time, like I said, I didn't realize that he was, relatively speaking in the context of what we're talking about, Black, until like the 80s. And because I just assumed, and then So there you have it.
Got a couple of multi-film collections from Criterion here. Michael Haneke trilogy, which always scares me, because as I've grown to like Michael Haneke, I still don't like a lot of his earlier films. And this has The Seventh Continent, Benny's Video, and 71 fragments of a chronology of chance on it. This is the director-approved Blu-ray collection of those three films. And these are important in his body of work. I still prefer, obviously, his later films. I'm trying to look at some of these, which all come from the like 89 to 94 period. I'm still trying to look at these through revisionist eyes and see if I can not be absolutely horrified by how cold and just cruel his view of the world is. And I can kind of get there a little bit. They still leave me colder than I would like. I'll say that. But anyway, there's a wonderful documentary on here about his career, which has all kinds of great interviews with it from all, great people he's worked with, Juliette Binoche and Isabelle Huppert.
Oh, the cineast of our times thing.
It's a wonderful doc. And, otherwise, I mean, it's a pretty cynical view of humanity in these three films. But Benny's video is a particularly interesting kind of film to look at in hindsight. We also have a wonderful set here of three films by Mai Zetterling. And Mai Zetterling, one of the, probably the only great female Swedish director of note over the last 50 years or so. These are all from the early to late 60s, 64, 66, and 68. The films are Loving Couples, Night Games, and The Girls. And Mai Zetterling really is still very influential, not talked about enough. A pioneering director on many levels, not just breaking gender barriers, but also because of the issues that she tackled, which are mostly feminist issues and things that had to do with a lot of changing mores in the 1960s, especially in Sweden. And but the films still hold up. They're really, really still very powerful and really worth discussing. So a lot of good stuff on here.
Great actress too.
Fantastic actress too. Yeah, for sure. Came out of acting like Liv Ullmann. Yeah. A lot of great interviews on here. Great 1996 documentary that brings back together all the original performers from The Girls. And there's even some behind the scenes footage that Swedish television shot on the set of Night Games, which is pretty cool. So yeah, really good set. Three films from Mai Zetterling. The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, the Terry Gilliam film. Yeah, on 4K. 4K. Yeah, 4K. Baron Munchausen.
I wonder how does look. I love, but there's a lot of stuff going on in that movie. A lot of makeup, a lot of special, practical special effects. I wonder if the 4K, you tell me, is revealing more than we would like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Crap. Yes. Because Terry always did his visual effects kind of retail. If you know what I mean, we watch, when you watch Time Bandits today, it's still really awe-inspiring. When you watch Brazil, it's awe-inspiring how he did those visual effects in a pre-CG era. But if you know what's going on, for example, when if you know that Jonathan Pryce in Brazil, when he's fighting the giant samurai, turn the podcast off right now if you don't want this spoiled for you. if you know that the close-ups are Jonathan Pryce waving a sword, wearing armor, and that the long shots are a little person in armor, that he's playing games with you, right? That he's staging that with a little person to change the perspective. Well, then you pay attention to it and you go, oh, that's a little person. I mean, and it's immediately obvious. So, he didn't really, he wasn't forward thinking in terms of, I'm going to do some visual effects that will stand the test of time. And yes, it does. But that said, I still think that as crazy and as much of a failure as this movie was, it is a fascinating film and a fascinating failure. And I like watching it in 4K. I think it's beautiful when it's beautiful, even if it's crazy and nonsensical when it's crazy and nonsensical.
I rather enjoyed it at the time. I had forgotten that the wonderful she was a little girl at the time, Sarah Polley, who of course now is
is going to get an Oscar nomination for director.
Women talking and whatnot. I forgot that she was the little girl in this movie, and so many folks there, Eric Idle and Jonathan Pryce, and So yeah. Robin Williams, of course, running around the movie and Sting. I'd forgotten how many people just saw walking around this movie. They come in, they do whatever they do, and they're gone.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. Terry Gilliam once said, I made Baron Munchausen for my daughter.
Yeah.
And I think this film was like $50 million at the time or some outrageous amount.
Yeah, Terry was notorious for going way over budget.
Yeah, oh, dear.
That was his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Todd Haynes, Velvet Underground from 2021, just a few years ago. Todd Haynes decided to give us a look at the underground 1960s scene in New York, which has, been plumbed by a few films, but not quite like this. Got a lot of performances I don't think anybody's ever seen before. You getting all Lou Reed and Andy Warhol and the whole thing. I mean, it's a scene. He really takes you into the middle of it. I don't know that I came out a better person for having seen this, but I certainly came out a more informed person. And I like seeing, like there are people who show up here. Jonas Mekas, who we met at a LAFCA evening one year, and
it's a history. It's a history, and of course, it connects back to his film, in a certain sort of way, Velvet Goldmine, way back from the '90s, and you can probably even work your way through I'm Not There. It's obviously thematically a thing that he's into, and for a good chunk of his life.
And then lastly, from the Criterion angle of things, Imitation of Life, the fantastic, beautiful John M. Stahl original Imitation of Life, not the
34 film, not the 59
this is the 34 film that inspired the other one. And in many respects, I feel like this is better. This is Claudette Colbert and Louise Beavers, and deeply, deeply moving in hindsight. I've got to say, John Stahl was not one of the great directors of the 30s that I kind of, centered my life on. But really, it is an amazing look at motherhood. If you most people know the Cirque film. That's the one that they really focus on, which is a beautiful film and very much of its moment and had a lot to say about that point in time. But for 1934, that's what I keep coming back to. I'm like, wow, this is an unusual. I mean, I can see that this is a movie that kind of grows out of the Depression in many respects, but it feels bigger than that. I don't know about your thoughts.
Oh man, I mean, the Freddie Washington, of course, who plays the fair-skinned, green-eyed daughter of Louise Beaver, but yet, people. People thought she was white. She wasn't. Freddie was African American. She was actually African American. People thought that a white woman was playing that part. No, Freddie was an extremely fair-skinned, green-eyed, African American woman, and perfectly appropriate for the part. Unlike the 1959 movie. No, I think this is because it's 1934. 1934 is 5 years before my dad was born.
Yeah.
Because it's 1934, it resonates in a completely different way because that was a completely different time. By the time you get to the 1959 movie, where we are post Brown versus Education. Mm-hmm. So the politics in the nation are all different. This is 1934. The politics are not different at all. In that way, it's a completely different sort of film set in a completely different time.
And it's worth pointing out this is based on a novel, which was ahead of its time as well. I mean, a best-selling novel. So, I mean, there are a lot of really interesting contradictions about the culture at that point in time. The extras on here are few, but really, really interesting. There's a new introduction from Imogen Sarah Smith, who's a contributor to a John M. Stahl book. There is a new interview with Miriam Petty, who wrote Stealing the Show, African-American Performers and Audiences in 1930s Hollywood. Very specific. She talks about Freddie Washington, Louise Beavers, and what they meant at the time. And what I think is fascinating, there's a separate trailer on here because audiences were segregated at that time. Although you wouldn't know it by watching Babylon, the new Chazelle film. Doesn't seem to remember that. Yeah. But audiences were segregated, so they cut a completely separate trailer for black audiences. And it's really, really interesting. It gives you a glimpse into 1930s marketing and everything that they were doing right and wrong And it's quite interesting to see how they elected to market it. But also want to point out that when this was made, this was produced by Carl Laemmle, the founder of Universal, and good on him for getting behind this. Carl Laemmle was the first great studio mogul to die. He died soon thereafter. Didn't make it into the 1950s like the rest of them, but very forward-thinking man, and good for him.
That studio chain still working its way out into the world. I'd forgotten that Alan Hale, the skipper, is in this movie. Very young.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. No, this is Alan Hale Sr. That's his dad.
This is Alan Hale Sr. This is his dad.
That's his dad.
Oh, yeah, because I would be Junior. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
No, that's Alan Hale Sr. They're spitting image of each other. They could be twins. No, Alan Hale Sr., if you remember, was Friar Tuck in The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, let's go to 4K straight off the bat, because I am a Jackie Chan fanatic. I'm just going to tell you the 4K, the 4K of Dragons Forever is amazing, is absolutely wonderful. I am so grateful for this. I love this movie. Every previous DVD or Blu-ray that I have it has not been great. Man, this is just absolutely spectacular. Cannot be happier with how this turned out. 4K of, and it comes with a booklet, a really great booklet as well. But Dragons Forever is just a great Three Brothers film. For those who don't know, Three Brothers, it's Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung and their childhood buddy from school, Yun-Bu. And then there's also, Yun-Hwa, who was also at the school with them, who plays one of the bad guys. He's like always puffing on a cigar in this thing. There are some of the great fight scenes of all time in any Jackie Chan movie in this. It is epic and wonderful. And this is just, Dragons Forever is a true classic. Cherry Chung is in this. She's just gorgeous. I love it. This is one of the great Hong Kong New Wave favorites. And it comes loaded with extras in this thing. It's got an international cut. Just it doesn't really matter. The fight scenes are all the same. Don't worry about all the different cuts. That's for nerds like me to deal with. But yeah, it looks absolutely terrific. Tons and tons and tons of interviews and behind the scenes stuff and everything that you could ever want. If you're a Hong Kong movie nut like I am, Dragons Forever on 4K is a dream come true. Tim, Black Adam.
Yeah. Wow. We had this conversation. You and you. I think it was you, me, maybe Ray.
Yeah.
Because Black Adam comes out. Everybody hates Black Adam. Everybody says it. And I want to look at the numbers and look like Black Adam was kind of doing okay. The reviews are notoriously bad. The question it came down to, and I watched it. I finally got around to watching it. It really is not a good movie. It's not a good movie at all. And in a bunch of different ways, particularly narratively, but it's also visually a very unattractive film. Very unattractive film. And I'm interested to see what it looks like in 4K because, I didn't see it there. And so the question became, is this a hit or a miss for Dwayne? And I don't know, the numbers are still vexing to me because it still looks like it's making money to me when I look at the numbers, like right now, I'm looking at the numbers. And I'm thinking if a studio, it makes this much money back, and it's not like big numbers, in terms of some of the other, big films, but it's making money. It's making money.
Yeah.
But it still exists in the world, in the perception of the world as a flop. And it's also literally not a good movie.
I think this was such a misguided attempt to try and reboot a new DC trajectory, independent of the Snyderverse. And they try to start it up with the Justice Society. We're going to, the Justice League is tainted. So let's now try the Justice Society and let's put Dwayne Johnson in the middle because he's a big star. Well, if you're going to put Dwayne Johnson in the middle of a movie, let him be Dwayne Johnson. He doesn't really get to be Dwayne Johnson here. No. I mean, Black Adam, I don't even know is that popular or great of a character. I mean, it connects to Shazam, and Shazam but it doesn't have Shazam's wit. And then you got Pierce Brosnan kind of miscast, and you got a couple of young stars in here who are a little bit miscast. And Hawkman, do we really want to go Hawkman? Because Hawkman didn't even really survive past like the first half season of the TV show. Right. Yeah. So, it seems to fall prey to that idea that lots of action scenes or a substitute for plot. Problematic.
Exactly.
CG. Yeah. Anyway, there's not going to be another one. We know that now because Walter Hamada got canned, and there's a whole new team over at DC. But anyway, there's Black Adam. What else we got here on 4K? Halloween Ends. Did you see Halloween Ends?
I did. Is
it really going to end?
Yeah, you know, look, the Halloween has been ending for quite a while now, and as much as I am a big fan of Jamie Lee, who's hopefully going to get nominated for Best Supporting Actress for a really fun performance and Everything Everywhere All at Once. As much as I love Jamie, this series of movies has really milked it. In this last series of the series, which I think are all David Gordon Green, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
Have really been irritating to me. And this is what's irritating about this one and the last two or three is that they seem to want to attempt to explain it all. And the explanation that they have for it, the reason for Michael Myers and this family and what is it, all these 40 years of mayhem is us, we, the people. Because we here on Earth, Americans or whoever, are such bad people because we harbor such war and this and that. That we are the thing that keeps reanimating Michael Myers. And you know what, David Gordon Green, you can kiss my ass. All right. That's bullshit. Don't blame this crap on me. No, it's Michael Myers is just some evil thing. He almost exists in the context of that cosmic horror. He is because he is, and you can kill him whenever you want to kill him. And frankly, it's really sort of silly. And I think at this point, and I wouldn't have thought this over the last, all of my career. At this point, it's really kind of insulting. It's insulting. Yeah. Michael Myers exists because you guys can keep making money from making these movies. And that's what's going on here. And that's the only thing that's going on.
Yeah.
And don't try to make it some sort of existential, societal, reflection on bullshit Jungian blah. No. And just kill the guy and let the movie die.
What I love about the Halloween franchise is that William Shatner got to anchor yet another franchise without ever showing up in any of the movies.
I just hope he gets a royalty, man.
I hope he gets a piece of that mask.
That melted mask.
Yeah. Deleted and extended scenes on here, and that is that. Invaders from Mars.
Which one?
This is the classic 1953 Invaders from Mars.
Yes.
This is out on 4K from Ignite Films. Features a restored version of the film from the George Eastman Museum. And you know what? It's one of those sci-fi Cold War analogies that just still works, I guess.
I always loved it. I still do. The colors just pop off the screen.
They do, like movies from no other era. That those early color films, whatever stock they were using back then, 1953, it was just coming out of a black and white, couple of black and white decades, and they had saturated stocks, and it was really, really great. But yeah, you know what? I mean, it's got all of that post World War II, early atomic age paranoia and all that stuff that we, it's just a wonderful kind of Cold War allegory. In the same vein as things like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Day the Earth Stood Still and all those other great sci-fi movies from that moment. And there's a ton of really, really terrific stuff on the extras. This was directed by and production designed by William Cameron Menzies. We should point out, one of the great all-time designers in the history of Hollywood. So it has this amazing look to it. And the design is just fantastic. My favorite thing on here on the extras is this featurette that features Mark Goldblatt, the editor, along with John Landis and Joe Dante, and Robert Skotak, the special effects guy, all of whom have these really interesting perspectives on the film. It's really, really interesting. And then there's John Sayles' introduction on here, and just tons of other great vintage materials. Really, really great. And the 4K is fabulous. It's perfect. It's never looked more beautiful. Never looked more beautiful.
It's Groundhog Day in that stack.
Yep, right here.
Oh
got the
it's a 30-year anniversary. 30 year. We're into the 30th, 93. Yeah. So this would be the 30-year anniversary of it. But this is not is this a 30-year anniversary release?
Yes, it is. It is
Oh,
the
wow.
it is an anniversary tin. It is a steel book, and you know what? I mean, Bill Murray's been taking a lot of heat lately. I'm not going to get into any of that stuff. Bill Murray is Bill Murray. He's a perfectionist and he's pissed off a lot of people. But Harold Ramis, I miss Harold Ramis.
Oh, wow.
I miss Ramis he was an auteur and we didn't realize he was an auteur. He was, Multiplicity is a movie that doesn't get enough credit. I love Multiplicity. I think that's just a fun film.
Oh, the Ice Storm, when he decided to do a darkly comedic, the Ice Storm with Billy Bob. Ooh, that's Harold. And he's in that movie too. And it might be close to his last movie, but it's wicked.
I'll tell you, I miss him. This screenplay, which he wrote with Danny Rubin,
something like that.
I think, he wrote this screenplay with Danny Rubin, and it's such a smart movie. It's been imitated so much 3 times in the last couple of years. We've had, knockoffs of this. I mean, even the Tom Cruise film with Emily Blunt, the title of which is escaping me right now, is basically
Living. Oh, yeah. Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow. Even that is basically Groundhog Day. It's a big sci-fi Groundhog Day. It was revolutionary, and God bless them. They've got the commentary, the Harold Ramis commentary, just makes you miss him all much more because you hear him talk about this, and it's just such a smart, agile filmmaker. It's got deleted scenes. They've got an actual thing on real life marmots and groundhogs, and I don't know that I needed that. But whatever, that's fine. And there's even it's gimmicky, but it's cute. Needle Nose Ned's picture-in-picture track. It's a little gimmicky thing, but Ned Ryan. It's yeah. So anyway, then you got the Weight of Time documentary on here, which is nice too, and it's a steelbook. It's pretty great. So Groundhog Day, love the movie, still holds up. Tim, House of the Dragon. You've been watching House of the Dragon?
I ran through it real quick. It's at the same time the other one was out, the Lord of the Rings. Thing. So I figured let me see what's going on with these things. House of the Dragon is better. It's more consistent. I'm not a big Game of Thrones fan in the first place, right? Yeah. I mean, I just never was. Watched some Game of Thrones, most of it. I think I eventually actually saw all of it, but I didn't live in it the way a whole bunch of other folks were. Yeah. And this, of course, is set so many hundreds of years,
200 years earlier, which in Game of Thrones time is like about 14 seconds.
and it's more consistent than the other one, episode to episode. Some really good performances. That prequel thing bugs me a little. Because I'm like, I know how it ends.
I agree.
I know how it ends. So, but I don't know. I guess people are digging it.
Well, this is the first season. It comes in both a regular edition and a limited edition collectible steel book for people who care. The steel book is more narrow. It'll fit on your shelf if it's getting bloated. The other's in a regular keep case, which is just a little wider. But HBO continues to go to the well with this stuff. We got another steel book here, which is an anniversary edition Best Buy exclusive of Highlander.
Ooh.
Yeah, I
love that first Highlander film, man. I just love that movie.
I was in France when this thing got released, and Christophe Lambert, huge star at the time. It was the year that he also did Subway, the Luc Besson film, and he won Best Actor for it. And man, did this movie it was lines around the block. It was unbelievable. The TV Highlander, not so much, but boy, this first film, notwithstanding the sequels, this first film, Russell Mulcahy, who's coming out of a music video directing career, did a lot.
Just the soundtrack of this film.
Just the soundtrack. Did a lot of splashy music videos, and he was the first music video director, along with Steve Barron, to kind of come out. Steve Barron and Russell Mulcahy were the guys. They had done everything. And Mulcahy really, really lit it up with this, and then his career went nowhere after that. I don't know what happened, but
a lot more of these.
But still, I mean, the Immortals, and Connery is great, and Lambert is great, and it chills me that they're talking about doing a remake of this thing, because I don't know.
Yeah, there can be only one. It's literally,
right.
it's literally in the why they should pay attention. Oh well.
Touche. And then the last 4K that we've got here isn't really worth talking about. We're going to make mention of it anyway. It's Pray for the Devil, Prey. Get it? It's a word play. It's a pun. Pray for the Devil. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, this is just kind of a cheesy, exorcisty knockoff with the novelty of, you have a nun who wants to be the first female exorcist. Okay, I guess.
If you want. I didn't know there was a rule against it, sweetie.
I mean,
knock yourself off.
Anyway, apart from that, it's just pretty standard issue. It's moody. It's a little, scary and whatnot. Yeah. I mean, it's all the horror films today are very polished.
Yeah.
Unlike, 50 years ago when everything was just dirty and nasty and cheesy and barely getting by. And it looked like they bought their film stock the day before. Everything now is very polished and high tech and great effects and tense and whatnot. So, I mean, it's got all that going for it. I don't know.
It's got Virginia Madsen and it's got Ben Cross walking around it. They can act.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it's fine. Tim, some docs that you said you're looking at.
Let me pop over. For one thing, I see amongst that stack, Hallelujah, Leonard Cohen, A Journey, a Song, which of course is a feature length documentary that explores. But it's about Leonard Cohen, but it's about him during the time which took decades to write that song.
Yeah.
And the many more verses of that song than we generally speaking hear. There are many verses of that song, and he sang different verses at different times in different places and recorded it with different verses. And it's a sort of an iconic song. It's an anthem. It's an anthem. I suppose it's become an anthem. It has, right?
Look, there's a version of it that closes Zack Snyder's Justice League as a tribute to his daughter.
Yeah.
It shows up in that way in so many films and situations.
So yeah. Anything other than the movie with that movie?
Not excessively. It's not really. It's pretty much just the movie. But it's a good film. We got another doc here called Free Puppies from First Run Features, which is really, really sweet. Is it an important documentary? Not really. It's just it's about dogs and look, there are enough cats on YouTube. So let go of the cats for a second and come and check out this movie shot in Georgia where you got a bunch of women who have kind of pulled together to make it there's no animal shelter thereby, so they're going to try to create a better situation for dogs in this particular area in Dade County. And it's a really, really sweet, wonderful, look, forget about what they're doing. It's got dogs. It's got cute dogs, tons of cute dogs. That's what you're watching it for. Free puppies. It's beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. Oliver Stone also made JFK Revisited. This is hasn't probably gotten enough attention, I don't think, because Oliver Stone can't let the whole JFK thing go. Forget about the JFK movie. This is a mini-series and a feature-length film. The film is JFK Revisited Through the Looking Glass, and then the mini-series is JFK Destiny Betrayed, and it goes all into much, much more intense detail than the film obviously ever could. And there's a great audio commentary on here with Stone and James DiEugenio. And this is all really intense. Whoopi Goldberg and Donald Sutherland narrate the film. But the miniseries goes into even greater detail, CIA, Pentagon stuff. All of the the JFK papers still aren't out, Tim. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Why? What do you think is in there?
And there was a date specific. Well, good question, but there was a date specific after which And if I'm not, X number of years, I'm saying, after X number of years, he's been.
But they keep extending it. They keep extending it.
And they keep extending it. Yeah, and therein lies the problem. Waiting. I'm like, who's left to die? Who's left to die from?
Well, who's left to die? The entirety of the CIA.
Well, yeah, I guess, but the actual, I mean, really, is anybody left from the Warren Commission? All did, right? All did.
I think they're all dead. Spectre was the last one. Yeah.
I just can't think of anybody left literally from that era who was active and adult, engaged in the business of what was going on then, who's not dead. So I can't imagine why you would keep extending it. I don't know. It's a mystery, but the people are increasingly look. Jackie always thought that LBJ was behind it. Now that's quite a thing when the first lady thinks that the vice president is plotting to kill your husband. Like that's Banana Republic stuff. Now, and then of course everything that we also know about pretty much most of the assassinations from that period. They all have, they're all political assassinations, but they all have big questions to them. With JFK, it's obviously not to rehash it all, but right, Jack Ruby is what throws that whole thing into disarray. Yeah, Jack killing on TV the next day or whatever day. Yeah,
yeah, and the fact that Lee Harvey Oswald had traveled so extensively and then, when you go to, we just had Martin Luther King Day. When you go to Martin Luther King's assassination, James Earl Ray, and you think, oh, he's just, a redneck, racist, good old boy who had 2 passports. You know what I mean? Like suddenly there are all of these other things that make you think, okay, maybe a lot of these guys are just stooges and they're being
well, they did that. Guys. They did that, and I know we're falling away from the actual movie we're talking about, but they did that whole mock trial or mock investigation of the James Earl Ray, killing of MLK, and it was done on PBS. And it was, do you remember this was maybe the 80s, maybe the 90s or something like that? And they came to the conclusion that he unequivocally, absolutely, certainly did not alone kill MLK in this, and I forget who all the heavy hitters were, but it was former this and former that and all the, and so and then we had so there you go. It's Stone, to get us back to what we're actually talking about, has not let it go. And I think that's perfectly appropriate because they're questions that still need to be answered.
Questions. Yeah. Paul Taylor, Creative Domain. This is also from First Run Features. Kate Geiss made a wonderful, wonderful documentary that is a look into the creative process and the everything about one of the great choreographers of all time. Yeah. And it's really a wonderful look at just what choreography is all about, what dance is all about. We've had a lot of documentaries about choreographers and dance, but they're all different because they all approach it differently. And, Taylor's been at this for generations.
Over 50 years.
Over 50 years, close to 60 years, and maybe even over 60 years. And it's just, he's probably not as well known as some others, but he's definitely as more than influential enough. And it's wonderful. And, dancing is just a visual medium to begin with. So it makes for a really terrific movie.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a doc about Nina called Nina, that sort of wicked 3D thing. Maybe 5-6 years ago.
Yeah. That was the Wim Wenders.
Yeah. The Wim Wenders thing. Yeah. Great. And there was a great one, about the, the black choreographer. Just a year or two ago, that one.
Yes.
It'll pop in my head, but it will. Anyway, great docs.
The Story of Film, A New Generation. Mark Cousins, who previously did The Story of Film, which is really pretty vain, but it's still interesting. What Cousins does is basically he has like these really elaborate theories about how films sort of represent a political tapestry of our times and all these connecting themes and interconnecting concepts. And he takes you through this collage of his stream of consciousness and all the movies that get folded into it. And sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Sometimes he's, making connections that are profound and sometimes he's just grasping at straws. And so, you sit there in this case, I mean, and I covered this on Film Week. I mean, it's a long movie. It's, close to 3 hours long, about 2 hours, 45 minutes, and 97 films. He there are clips of 97 films in 167 minutes. So do the math. You're pretty much close to there's a new movie being clipped every 90 seconds about. I mean, it's really this very elaborate thing. And yeah, sometimes it's a little bit crazy, but it's his journey. So you're going on, he's not saying this is true. This is just his opinion. So you go on this amazing journey and, you're connecting everything from Black Panther to Gravity to Moonlight and Mad Max, Fury Road. And he's all over the map.
He's very comprehensive. I'll give him that. I don't
Frozen even gets folded in here.
Yeah. I don't much cotton to his take on these things, except for when he does this in these series of films. Sometimes he will find the actual connective thread, the through lines.
Yeah.
Through images even, right? So images, and then he'll say, he'll take you from the images that he knows that a filmmaker experienced and then show you how that filmmaker then used those images in his film, and then how that the next and how they juxtapose them, and he can just walk you right through it. And those moments I really, really enjoy because you can actually see the hard connections. Scorsese loved Michael Powell. Yeah. Michael Powell did this. Scorsese made a movie. He did this. This is not unlike the thing that Michael Powell did in those movies that Scorsese, you know what I mean? And you just walk through decades worth of filmmakers. And there's a reason why, the Palma movies look like Hitchcock movies.
It's true. It's very, very true. Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's I'm a little mixed, but yeah.
Yeah.
A&E's, Origins of Hip Hop documentary series, 8 episodes, is out, and it's perfectly fine. I don't know if it's as comprehensive as it probably could or should have been for 8 episodes, but I mean, it hits some interesting figures. It's not the end all be all, but I mean, it's
no. It's not even close. Actually, it's I'm not going to get ridiculous about it, but this needs to be much deeper. I look at the list of folks here. I don't even see. I don't see some of the most important cats, both because a lot of what they're doing here is about cats who are on the mic, and a lot of hip hop is about cats who are on the turntable, or cats who are the hype men, not necessarily, and a lot of those cats are not here. I appreciate it, but this just does not go nearly as deep as it needs to go.
It focuses a little too much on the 80s for my taste.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you got to go back to 71, 72, man. Yeah. I mean, where's Grandmaster Flash?
Yeah.
And cats. Anyway, I'll fly off the forehead.
Moonage Daydream. Is that going to get an Oscar?
And Grandmaster Flash is in the film, but the connections are not made.
No, go ahead. Yeah. I was going to say Moonage Daydream. Is this going to get an Oscar nomination?
The Bowie. I don't know, Brett Morgan's film. I deeply appreciated it and everything, but no, I don't think it's going to get an Oscar nomination. It doesn't make my cut.
Yeah, it doesn't make mine either. I enjoy it. I'm not a huge Bowie nut, but I thought it was perfectly fine. I feel like something more than it's a little too fawning. It's a little too in love with Bowie, and it doesn't really get to the meat of who he was. And I think it's a little superficial, but it's visually really, really pretty amazing. So, as a tribute, yes. As a dissection, I would say no. Really quickly, I just want my Bowie story. Is when I was an usher at the Man's National Theater, first year in college. We showed Greystoke, and we were the only theater in Los Angeles showing it. Beautiful platform, packed house every weekend. It was just nonstop. And so one weekend there's a call that comes in from headquarters. We have somebody who's going to be showing up. We would like you to reserve 2 seats in the back. They'll be showing up once the lights go down. Please reserve those seats so that they can be escorted into them. Oh, all right. Okay, very good. Who do we know who? And one of the assistant managers knew who and somehow caught wind and figured it out. She was losing her mind because she's a huge David Bowie fan. It was Bowie and Iman. And sure enough, I'm sweeping up popcorn on the stairs like the movie's already started. And I look up sure enough, Bowie and Mon walk right past me, just shoop, up the stairs into the theater. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then when the movie finishes, I'm opening the doors outside. Movie has barely started finishing. They come roll like a limo pulls up. They run right out of the theater into the thing, and then it's like 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. It's like a Beatles crowd of people. Like you couldn't even get into the theater in the dark without people. Bowie's in the theater, and it will get ripples through the theater like wildfire, you know. And next thing you know, there's a bunch of screaming people, boys and girls, all going nuts, chasing that limo down the street in Westwood Boulevard.
In 1984, let's see, Bowie. That would have been Bowie and Bowie in that red suit.
Yeah,
right. That's that Bowie, right? That's the
Bowie that Bowie.
It was post Ziggy.
Post Ziggy. Yeah, no, it was Bowie in the fabulous suit. Yeah, China girl era. Bowie.
China girl Bowie. That Bowie.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Last couple of documentaries here. Say Amen Somebody from the Milestone Cinematheque collection is this is just a wonderful doc. This was Oscar nominated, I believe.
Back in '82. Yeah. I'm almost certain it was.
Yeah. Just an absolutely beautiful movie. Still totally just works. This is just, a wonderful, wonderful tribute to, gospel and, everything that it represents in American culture, this transcendent form of American expression and singing, the way that it ties music to the church, to every culture. But I just think it's a beautiful, beautiful film. Along
with jazz.
Yep.
One of the three original American music forms. Jazz, rock and roll, and gospel.
Yeah.
We actual Americans did that.
Yep.
So it's just a beautiful film. And all of these people, when I was a kid, people knew who Thomas A. Dorsey was.
Yeah.
You could hear him on the radio if you listen to gospel stations and stuff like that. And Jackie Jackson and Bertha Smith and all of these folks, but they sort of slip off into the into the ether a little bit.
Let's wrap out with TV, shall we? And then at the end of the show, I'm going to let Tim go and take some time to just roll through the anime. We've had a ton of new anime come in. I'm not going to keep Tim locked up for that. I'm going to lock up all the listeners for that. But let's talk about some TV here. Anything you want to start on?
What do we got here? Is any of this stuff new? The Staircase limited series, is that a new thing? Although, if you got that Hogan's Heroes complete series close, I'd love to know what the special features, and I hope there's some special features on the Hogan's Heroes.
There are select audio commentaries, which are fine. Who did
we just lose? We lost one of the. Did we just lose?
LeBeau. We lost
LeBeau.
Yes,
Robert Clary.
Robert Clary. Yeah. Who was Jewish and who lost family in the Holocaust. I mean, never really talked about it until later in his career. But yeah, we just lost Robert Clary.
Yeah.
So we've kind of lost them. Have we lost them all now?
Werner, is Werner gone? Werner's been gone for a while. Yeah, Richard Dawson a couple of years ago. Bob Crane and that whole nutty thing that he got involved in.
Ivan Dixon, we lost.
Ivan Dixon, a couple of years ago. Yeah,
I think they're all gone.
Larry Hoyle, yeah,
they're all gone. Oh well, I mean, great series. Kind of one of those amazing '60s shows that fused things together. I mean, and there are a lot of them that did this, that said, let's take some dramatic movies and let's figure out a way, like Bewitched, for example. Bewitched is a very, very clever combination of the Jimmy Stewart movie Bell, Book, and Candle and My Wife, the Witch, right? It took those two movies and kind of combined them, and they came up with Bewitched. It was very, very clever. And didn't have to pay any royalties because it's not technically based on them. And with Hogan's Heroes, they said, why don't we take Stalag 17, the Bill Holden film, and The Great Escape, and let's see if we can mash those things together. And sure enough, they made a comedy out of it, and it's fantastic. I can watch this show forever.
And it's the making it into a comedy that's really, mashing them together and while still there was an edge in this show. The missions, goofy, funny, yes, absolutely. There's missions and all that kind of stuff, and there's always a little. It might not work. It might not go.
And what I had not realized is, and because they've got interviews on here with Richard Dawson and the series co-creator Al Ruddy.
Oh, really?
I didn't even realize that. I'm like, really? Al Ruddy? Like Godfather Al Ruddy? Before he was the Godfather Al Ruddy? I
had no idea.
I know. So, hats off to Al Ruddy. But what a just absolutely wonderful wonderful show, So many great lines. I still, this is how I know I'm getting old, is I still reference this, and only a handful of other parents at school will know. If I go, I know nothing. I know when the other parents are close to my age start giggling, I'm like, sweet, Gen Xer. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, yeah,
you millennials have no clue. What a great show. So anyway, yes, all 6 seasons. I'm surprised it didn't run longer, but ran long compared to, a lot of shows during that period. But Hogan's Heroes, Blu-ray Hogan's Heroes. It's so exciting. I'm going to waste a lot of time over the next few weeks doing that. Yeah, The Staircase. Let's talk about The Staircase, which was an original series for HBO Max. Limited series. Might have been turned into a longer running series if not for the upheaval going on over there. This is on DVD, not Blu-ray. And it is, it's all about a war veteran named Michael Peterson and his, how it gets into, well, how do I even do it? I don't want to give this away. There's something happens that's tragic and it becomes a legal matter. Let's do that because you need to kind of watch it to appreciate what's happening.
It's a lot of good performances. It's by about
some great performances.
Great actors. You got
Tony Collette. Tony Collette is fantastic.
Michael Spielberg. It's just and Patrick Schwarzenegger. Which you give the kid his due, though I hate it. So that's one of the things this has going for it. It's very, very sort of moody, and it's a what's going on kind of thing.
Yeah.
This guy, because the veteran, he's a crime novelist, and he's accused of killing. And then we have to figure out what happened.
Yeah, I think it would have done better as a longer series than a limited series if they'd have been able to continue it, but it was not meant to be. So it's a limited series and isn't going to get a second season or anything of that sort.
What it should have been is conceived, because you can tell that it was intended to be a longer series. It should have been conceived as a limited series, and then that way they could have tightened it all up.
Yeah, you're right.
And aim at a target and go for it. But it's a little loose and it strings it out because it thought it had more time.
Speaking of stringing it out, and just like that, a new chapter of Sex and the City, the complete first season. I'm terrified that this is going to get a second season because this is really, why? Why did they do this? Why? Done? Aren't we done with this? Why?
Well, they had all the movies. They had all the movies there, and you figure, and stringing this thing out. Look, I was a big original series Sex in the City fan. Way back, me and Bridge, she loved that show, Sarah Jessica, and all that kind of stuff like that. And then one of those movies was actually okay. I kind of tapped out on the series before, and then after that, they just kept stringing along, and then this. And of course, there's the whole problem with, Chris Noth and everything that went down there with respect to this. And they had to, do what they had to do in order to get his character the hell out of the show. But you're asking the question is, why did they make it in the first place?
Yes.
And the actual answer is this: because women of a certain age,
say no more.
And they will be serviced. They will be serviced. It's one of the reasons why the whole how Stella got her groove back thing is happening again, with all of those women of a certain age again.
And why the new movie 80 for Brady exists.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I just want to say this about Ancient Aliens season 16. Season 16 of Ancient Aliens. If Eric Von Daniken were alive today, he would be a trillionaire. You know that? It's just like, it's unbelievable. So Ancient Aliens season 16, if you think that there is anything in season 16 that you haven't seen in the first 15 seasons, you are why there is a season 16. So I came to this conclusion. I was my brother-in-law, who watches a lot of this, basically watches History Channel all day long. I was watching some stuff over and seeing him. He's watching TV History Channel, and like, oh, that's really interesting. They're like examining, Mesoamerican sites and whatnot. That's fascinating. That's really interesting. And then like the last 20 minutes of the show, but who built them? and I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you seriously kidding me? And I realized everything on the History Channel, it basically has the same structure. Yeah. Isn't this interesting? Why is this interesting? Because aliens. Everything. Every show on that network is Ancient Aliens. The one called Ancient Aliens just happens to be called Ancient Aliens, but they're all Ancient Aliens.
The most interesting thing about that show, Ancient Aliens, 16 seasons of Ancient Aliens, the most interesting thing about it is that never once, not once, is there ever an alien. Ever. Ever. Not 16 seasons. They never find one. They never they post questions. You would know. But I'm like, really? 16 seasons? You couldn't find just one?
Okay. Are you ready? Are you ready for this segue?
Oh, go.
You know where you do find aliens?
Where?
Star Trek Prodigy season
Which
1.
I love. Of the Star Trek extensions,
the animated extensions,
these are the animated ones. But of all of it, this is the stuff that's most fun. Picard, the live act. No, Discovery, hit and miss at best. This animated stuff, I'm having a fabulous time. This is Lower Decks.
Yeah, well, Lower Decks I couldn't really get with. It felt like the Simpsonization of Star Trek.
I love that.
But Star Trek Prodigy, okay, I love the original Star Trek animated series, the Filmation thing.
Oh, yeah.
I totally got down with that. I really enjoy that still. Because it was like an extension of the original series, and you got all the same characters, all the same characters and the voices.
A little bit more high tech equipment, they can spacewalk in an energy suit.
Yeah, I mean, this is 3D animation. I feel like it's a little too jokey for me, but at the same time, it feels closer to that original animated series than something like Lower Decks, which is just totally gonzo comedy. So, I kind of feel like there's something interesting here, and they're onto it, and maybe they'll do some more interesting things with this than what some of the live action stuff is doing.
Well, they do stuff like, we get Captain Janeway as a hologram. It's hologram. So you still got your Captain, and there's a lot of that sort of pops up. It's very referential, and it's fun that way. You get Captain Chakotay, and all that kind of stuff. So
tons of extras on here. 75.
And my girl Deborah Wilson is in that show too. That's a big deal to me. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Wade.
Yeah, it's 75 minutes of extras. A lot of great stuff. Season 1 of Reacher on 4K. So Jack Reacher as a non-Tom Cruise character.
Well cast, very well cast. Yes. By a guy who's actually 6'5".
Yeah.
And he played somebody in Titans. First season of Titans.
He's more in line with the way the character was written in the books than Tom Cruise.
Yeah, ever was. Yeah. Jack Reacher's a big guy in the whole, and in all those, I've read 1 or 2 of those. That's the thing that they talk about, how in Tom Cruise, they tried to get the camera low and shoot up, and they would put him on Apple boxes or whatever the hell they were doing to try to make him seem like a bigger guy. But Tom Cruise is not a physically imposing, person. He's just literally not.
What I think is
Alan, what's his name? Richardson. He is.
Yeah. I don't have the name, but
Alan Richard, something like that. He's a big guy.
He's a big dude. What's interesting about this season is that this is based on an actual book. They actually took one of the novels and adapted it across the span of the first season, which I think, okay, that's solid, because usually you're taking a book and you're saying, how do I pare this book down to fit it into a movie? Or you're saying, well, let's base a series on the book, but not really be faithful to the book. Let's just go off and do it. They actually were very, very faithful, and it has a good feel to it. I don't know if they can keep that going for the run of the series, but it's certainly a good try.
Yeah.
So we got season 3 of Evil.
Interesting. Evil.
Yeah, we talked about seasons 1 and 2. Yeah, Mike Cole having a really interesting career trajectory. We talked about seasons 1 and 2. I feel like season 3 is kind of hitting its stride. I think this is an interesting show.
Didn't that show move
Yeah.
networks or something? It was. I think like it was ABC. What did it do? It did something.
It moved from CBS to Paramount Plus.
And when it got to Paramount Plus, it got darker.
Yeah.
Because CBS is CBS, and all these networks have a sort of way that they do things. But over on Paramount, so whatever season it was, they got to Paramount. It got way edgier and darker, sexier. The whole sort of sexual dynamic thing between Mike Coulter's character and Katya Herbert's character. She's sexy as hell, by the way.
Yeah.
And Asif Mandev in the show. That whole thing got sultrier. So that move allowed it to become a more interesting show to me.
I agree. And I don't watch it a lot, but whenever I catch it, it's like, all right, I like where this is going. And I like what Coulter's doing with his career. I really do. I thought he was going to be Power Man for like 10 years. And that turns out that, getting that series canceled kind of helped him make some more interesting choices.
Luke Cage
series. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The complete series of Good Girls, which I missed completely when it was on because there's just too much television these days. But I watched a little bit of this. I kind of get where it was coming from. I had no idea that this went through a 4-year run, and I blinked and missed it. So 4 years is about right for what this show does. It's basically 4 moms trying to make, a difficult situation they resort to a life of crime, basically. It's a little tongue in cheek. It's got kind of Thelma and Louise-y vibe to it without the rape and the existential terror. Mm-hmm. It's not Breaking Bad. It's kind of like a lighter comedic-y Breaking Bad with moms is maybe a better way of putting it. But anyway, it's pretty well written. The comedy is dark, so it's not like hilariously funny, but they find some interesting ins and outs. But 4 years is about enough to make this series work, and then they tapped out when they couldn't really push the stories anymore, and that's good. That's where it belongs. Yeah. So, Good Girls, the complete series, worth a look if it's your thing. Let's cover Players season 1, and then I got a couple of vintage shows, and we'll wrap it out there. Players season 1. This is kind of not my particular kind of thing. Have you watched any of this, by the way?
Yeah, not my thing either. This is the one about the kids in the
sports league.
Yeah, the sports league.
The esports thing.
Esports and all that kind of stuff. And you look, I'm not a TikTok person. I don't even have TikTok. I think that's where they watch each other playing these games. And I don't particularly care for this stuff being called a sport.
I agree.
Because it's not a sport. You're sitting there. And I know that it takes some skill to play and win these games. I'm not saying that, but it's not a sport. And I guess the behind the scenes machinations of all of this world, I know there's a lot of money involved in this real world, and all that plays out in this series. And but I just can't, I can't get myself all jonesed up on it. And so I tapped out.
I see, my friend Greg Whiteley has been doing very well with his Netflix series, Last Chance U, and all of its various spin-offs, which I think are just terrific. Mm-hmm. He gets up there and he gets into, the inner workings of these sports leagues and, cheerleading and football and basketball. I mean, he's really doing a wonderful job of letting you see what goes into that. And then I look at something like this and I'm like, I can't really get behind a non-athlete named Cream Cheese who's excelling at like video sports. I feel like that's sort of an insult to real athletes, but there it is. It's out there.
Yeah. Call it, it's a game. It's not a sport. It's a game.
It's a game.
But whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. The complete series on DVD of Andy Richter Controls the Universe. This was for that minute after Conan was off the air, and Andy Richter went and tried to get a career of his own doing comedy. I actually think this very short-lived sitcom is quite funny. Now, this is now 20 years old.
Yeah.
But I actually think it's very, very funny. And it was odd humor that didn't quite catch on at the time, I'm afraid. And that's
how many 19 episodes
it's like 6 hours and 57 minutes worth on 3 discs. It's like whatever it is, it's like I forget how many episodes, but and there were 5 episodes on here that were never actually shown.
No.
So you get the full series. It's just
I see our boy Michael Pena got an episode.
Yeah, no, there's
a little work for Michael back there in the early days, and Miguel Nunez got an episode. John Cryer got an episode. So everybody got a paycheck. So
I miss shows like this because there's not sort of really wacky, quirky humor on television anymore. Everything's gotten too dark and serious.
Yeah.
And then lastly here, the complete series of the Borgias with Jeremy Irons.
Speaking of dark and serious.
Yeah, no kidding. I never felt like I felt like this was a real missed opportunity. And there were a whole bunch of films on the Borgias at one point that were planned. There were like a bunch of competing projects, and I think one of them had Glenn Close attached or something. And they never got off. They never got off the ground. I don't know why.
Well, this is Neil Jordan, and frankly, it has the sort of sensibility of a Neil Jordan film, one of those old Neil Jordan.
Yeah,
creator. Yeah,
it was aired on Showtime. It's sort of like the Borgias by way of Lestat. Maybe a way of putting it. Yeah, the Borgias are such a huge presence in history, and they're so larger than life, and I feel like it all got sort of watered down to a medieval version of Dallas or Dynasty here, and it's more important than that. And if if HBO had done this, it would have been better. It wouldn't have been quite so sultry as Showtime did it. But it's not bad. I mean, Jeremy Irons is great, but you do feel like they kind of sleaze it up a little bit. And the Borgias are sleazy enough already. You don't need to add any more sleaze.
Yeah.
So that being said, I mean, there are reasons to watch it, but there are reasons not to watch it too. So
it was the first of I think this was the first. Was the Borgias, and then there's the Tudors.
And
there's the Medici. Which
they were doing them all. They were doing them all. They were
popped them all out. So this, I think, started that whole run, if I'm not mistaken.
Indeed. So, all right. Well, that does it for the regular show. If you want to stick around and have me just roll through the anime, I will be doing that right at the end of this show. But Tim, for now, we'll be off for a couple of weeks. We got we got Oscar stuff going on, and Film Week Oscar shows coming up fast and furious too. So we'll be announcing that as soon as the details on that. We'll have at least one more show before that rolls around. But
I guess we know it's March It's the week after the Oscars. Before.
Yeah.
So we know that it's the week before the Oscars.
The Sunday before the Oscars, and it will be, if you're in Los Angeles, it'll be at the Orpheum.
New spot.
Moving venues. Yeah, new spot over at the Orpheum. Another classic old movie palace downtown. So with that, we will sign off. Hope you all have a good time. Bye bye, everybody. Welcome to the anime portion of the show. Let me jump right into this. Talking about some Sentai stuff here. We've got Beyond the Boundary, the complete collection, which is beautifully animated. Really, really powerful stuff in terms of the animation. Storytelling is a little bit more obscure, a little bit more opaque and impenetrable, dealing with kind of a mystical environment. Spirit world warriors, and it takes a little bit to kind of figure out the mythology of the show, but otherwise very, very good. Peter Grill and the Philosopher's Time is also an interesting fantasy environment. At times, this feels a little bit. It's about a guy who becomes the strongest guy in the world, and that leads to all kinds of interesting exploits and adventures. I want to say this kind of lives somewhere between Tom Jones, not the singer, but the body kind of 1963 Best Picture Oscar winning film, somewhere between that and Barbarella. If that sounds like the weirdest fusion ever, it is. But that's sort of the world that this feels like it inhabits. We've also got Chaika, the Coffin Princess, another mystical environment. I don't know why she carries this coffin around with her. She's a wizard, and she carries a coffin on her back. And the narrative here comes at the end of a kind of an epic fantasy war that's spanned many hundreds of years. And now we're in a kind of a post-war semi-peace, but it's not quite a peace. There's a lot of weird stuff going on here, like a dragon. There's a unicorn that eats people. There's no point in explaining any of it. But the after many centuries of war, this mystical girl, this white-haired wizard girl with the coffin backpack, shows up. Carole and Tuesday, Carole, Carole, ampersand Tuesday, like the day. These are two girls who meet on a slightly terraformed Mars and form a two-girl band and a great friendship. Really interesting that this takes place on Mars. There's really no reason for it to take place on Mars other than to create the sense of a frontier environment. But it's really interesting animation, very kind of light anime. I say that meaning that it doesn't look traditionally anime. It's anime inspired, but it definitely deviates from the traditional look of anime, which is nice. Toka Gatan, the Moonlight Lady returns. This is really quite interesting, actually. This takes place again in a mythical world, a magical mythical world, and there's this mysterious girl who shows up and joins this one particular clan. And that then, of course, sets everything off into this fascinating adventure after this stranger shows up. It's really interesting. Very well conceived, nicely paced, pretty cool. Actually, really pretty cool. The Prisma Ilya universe has a double complete collection here, a Prisma Ilya two-way and Prisma Ilya two-way hers. I've never really gotten my head wrapped around this whole concept, and I still don't get it, but for those who do, it is there. Gunbuster the movie is kind of in this closest thing we have to anything mecha this week. This is about a girl who is continuing her dad's legacy and fighting space aliens and doing what she needs to do in the expansion into space. It's a little bit of, again, Barbarella kind of meets Space Cruiser Yamato, but this one's actually not too complicated, pretty easy to hang with. The universe doesn't require a steep learning curve. Humanity Has Declined is this really cool post-apocalyptic story about this girl who kind of communes between humanity and this race of fairies who are hilarious. Really, not deep, 12 episodes. Gets that's enough. 12 episodes is absolutely enough for that. And that is Humanity Has Declined, the complete collection. Got some girl band and boy band stuff in Review Starlight, the movie, which is great for girls who want to, who might have a kind of a performance fantasy, and then Tsuki Pro the Animation 2 or Tsuki Pro 2 the Animation, which is boy band stuff. There's no shortage of that in Japanese anime, and we've got one apiece this week. Still going through the Sente collection, we have got Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun, which is about a girl who goes to help a cartoonist, a manga author, who is actually moonlighting under a female name, and then that kind of goes into a semi Cyrano de Bergerac direction, but it's a little bit of self-reflexive manga stuff. Listen to Me, Girls, I'm Your Father, story of a guy who has to now raise his three nieces, at least one niece and two step-nieces, after tragedy begets tragedy. Pretty well written, some pretty deep stuff here for something that is otherwise has a very light look to it. Himuto Umaru-chan R, the complete collection, very young skewing, very silly, almost isn't even worth mentioning, but girl who comes home from school and then kind of, she's the perfect girl at school. She's kind of a crazy lunatic when she comes home. Not it's it's really very young skewing comedy. It'll probably make your 5-year-old laugh if they have an inkling about anime. Love, Election, and Chocolate is based on a video game that is famous for kind of having a branching aspect to it, where you can pick a lot of different storylines to follow. I'm not sure why it is intended to work here. It gets into high school politics inside a very, very large high school. Not really quite sure what the point is. It's fine, but it looks like a million other things. Then you've got some kind of prurient stuff here. This sort of pushes the envelope as far as the schoolgirl stuff goes. Saitokai Yakuindomo, the movie 2. Again, politics, high school politics, girls doing things they probably shouldn't do. I wouldn't recommend this one for the young kids. The Girls' Panzer World has now a movie appropriately titled Girls' Panzer der Film. It's girls playing with tanks. It's a strange premise, but it works and it has a following. I guess perhaps because they're World War II tanks, they're vintage tanks, so it's not like they're driving around in anything that's over high tech. So a little bit of nostalgia factor there as well. And then, if tanks are too much, then you can go with BB guns in Aoharu Machine Gun, Aoharu, which is a little bit of a gender-bending story. A girl has to kind of masquerade as a boy to get into this club to engage in these pellet gun or BB gun shootouts. Not really responsible on any level whatsoever, but an interesting story, if for no reason that it has the kind of gender-bending aspect to it. Kin Moza got a bunch of titles this week, complete collections 1 and 2 from television and the movie as well. The premise here is all about this Japanese girl and a British girl who have become very, very close friends. And the British girl comes to Japan to go to school. And all kinds of wonderful girl shenanigans ensue. A Sakura Trick is a girl-on-girl romance in a school. Interestingly handled, given the premise, and that it is aimed at kids, but it's not terrible. It's not terrible. It requires some adult supervision, but if the adults deem it appropriate, I would say definitely filter this and then appreciate some of the writing in it. Princess Principal Crown Handler is a kind of a quasi-Victorian spy thing. It's spy girls in an environment that, in a world that is not quite Victorian France or England, but it sort of aspires to be. It's a cool look, some good character design, nice art direction, and it's a different kind of a world that it takes place in. Just Because is much more mature, much more just straight drama here. Girl and guy who are close to finishing their school years and have this very, very angsty relationship, a lot of anxiety, a lot of teen issues. Definitely aimed at that particular age group to sort of deal with whatever it is that they're dealing with. I find very, very insightful, and it definitely crosses cultural boundaries. Then we've got Teasing Master Tagaki-san, which is kind of, it's just two kids and their mischief. It's in school mischief. Do they like each other? Do they hate each other? Are they just just having fun with each other? It's a little juvenile. It's a little thin, but could be worse. It could be worse. Then we've got, let's see, pull this up. Waiting in the Summer. Waiting in the Summer it's school oriented. It's about a bunch of friends they use school friends and filmmaking with a little bit of a sci-fi magical element to it. So not quite sure how to explain how all of that folds together, but you're supposed to sort of get with it on the level that this is a bunch of kids who are falling in love with filmmaking and through their friendship, and how that ties in with everything else doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But none of these things make that much sense. Really, really good stuff. By the way, coming out from DigiGods and Shout. There's really some top tier stuff. The House of the Lost on the Cape is a wonderful story about a teenage orphan and a young mute girl and this old woman who, in the wake of tragedy and disaster, wind up being brought together in the home of this old woman and forging a bond. And it is absolutely beautiful and poetic and wonderful, and really a great, terrific work from director Shinya Kawatsura. So look for that from DigiGods and Shout Factory, The House of the Lost on the Cape. The Deer King takes place in kind of a fantasy universe. Might be kind of a future fantasy universe, but it's fantasy universe nonetheless. And it's parts of it are really amazingly animated, and parts of it are kind of more conventional. But the parts that are really well animated are absolutely tremendous. And the director is Masashi Ando. This is his directing debut. He's worked on a lot of other films previous to that, Spirited Away and Your Name, some great animation. So really very promising. Shows a lot of chops and should do some very interesting stuff in the future. In the meantime, it's just kind of a heroic journey, and about this miner who has to become a hero. But really very solid introduction to a filmmaker who's going to have a lot to say in the future. Summer Ghost is interesting. They invent this premise here that if you go to this abandoned airfield and you light fireworks, then the summer ghost will appear and will tell you all kinds of oracular things. And then, of course, the kids get a little bit too attached to this trick, and things spiral out of control. This is also a directorial debut, and quite a good one. The director is Loundraw, who is a very well known animator and illustrator, now an animator, and has a great sense of illustration and color and texture and character design, and that's really the strong suit here. The story could do with a little reworking, but visually this thing is spectacular. Goodbye Don Glees from Atsuko Ishizuka is feels a little bit like Stand By Me and Explorers and and a little bit of what are some of the other ones? Well, even Stranger Things. Any of the let's pack a bunch of kids, mainly boys, together and let them go off on an adventure. More Stand By Me than probably anything else here. But Don Glees is the name that these guys sort of call their clan, their group, and it follows a very interesting little odyssey, and each of them have their own story arcs, and they go in some really compelling directions. It's a good little film, and gets very, very touching and sweet at the end. So that's really worth checking out as well from DigiGods and Shout Factory. Goodbye Don Glees, Glees. And coming close to the end here, we've got a couple from The Right Stuff, STUF, rightstuff.com, and in this case, nozomient.com. This is Rental Magica, which is kind of Harry Potter-ish. It's basically, not a school, but it's a family that rents magic, or that rents out for people who need magic to be done for them. A little bit like Ghostbusters, except with kids, and Ghostbusters meets Harry Potter with magic, maybe is a good way to put it. Anyway, it's cute. It's interesting. It's got its moments. 24 episodes, some better than others, but you can make up your own mind. And then lastly, from Right Stuff and Sunrise is yet another Gundam. This is from the Gundam Seed line, Gundam S Destiny, the remaster project, Collection 2. I can't keep track of the entire Gundam universe. This is like, I think this takes place somewhere in the chronology close to the original Gundam. if I'm kind of trying to take a guess at it. But it's centered around a war between the Earth Alliance and the PLANT plant. And, you've got the Orb Union that now has to come in, and of course the Gundam suits play a big part. And there's a lot of fancy techno talk that takes you out of it a little bit, unless you're so immersed in the Gundam world that it'll all make sense. But anyway, if you're into Gundam, it's going to work. If you're not, there's no point in ever even dipping a toe in that world. So that's it for anime this week. Tim and I will be back in a few weeks. Stay dry.